So, mag-uumpisa tayo guys with this picture. With this picture, ano yung una mong maiisip? So, I'd like you to type into the chat boxes, once you see this picture, ano yung una mong naiisip? So, what comes into your mind? First thing that comes into your mind. So, may nakalagay archery, target, hit the goal. So, number one, yun, nakuha na. So, when I see this picture, for me, I see a goal. So, this morning's discussion will circle around your goals, guys. So, what are your goals? So, bakit dun tayo magsi-circle around? Because I wanted to start with something na gusto ko i-target mo or i-goal mo para we can begin with an end in mind. So, why? Because if we're not trying to achieve something, minsan yung plano natin hindi leaning towards that goal. And therefore, I'd like to start for you guys to take on and think about what your goals are. To be specific, since this is a money discussion, what are your financial goals? So, typically, the question is, ano yung financial goals mo? Ang number 3 things na papasok sa isip dyan is, I want to be rich, I want to retire, or I want to be financially independent. Tama ba? Do you agree? If you agree, can you type in yes in our chat box? So normally kapag tinanong sa'yo, anong financial goals mo? Tatlo yung normally lagi. I want to be rich. I want to be financially independent. I want to retire. So, sa tagal ng pagkaka-stay ko with Sun Life, I've been in the financial industry even when I was an accountant before pa in an auditing firm. Normally, I would ask my friends and my clients to define ano ba yung sa kanila yung rich? What do you mean by rich? Ano yung definition niya sa'yo? Yung financially dependent, ano yung definition niya sa'yo? And normally, I get an answer that retirement is a comfortable life. It is a life that is secured and a life that has no worries. So normally, yun yung definition nila ng retirement. When I ask my friends, when do you want to retire? They would say, siguro mga around 50, 55, or 60. So tama? Nakaka-relate ba kayo doon? So normally, ganun yung sagot, diba? So retirement means a comfortable, secure, and a less worry life. Funny thing is, when I also ask my friend, how do they define financially independent? So pag tinanong ko, anong ibig sabihin mo by financially independent ka na? So normally, ang sagot nila, surprisingly, the same exact thing. So sasabihin nila, siguro I'm financially independent if I have a comfortable life, I am secured, and I have no worries at all. Nakakatawa, no? Two different things, pero when you define it, it gives you the same exact answer. And when I ask my friends, when do you want to be financially independent? They would answer, now. So, diba? Same exact thing. When do you want to retire? Sasabihin, age 60 to 65. When do you want to be financially independent? They would answer, now. So, thing is, this comfortable life, secure, and no worries at all may not mean an age. So, baka hindi siya edad. Ano kung ibig ko sabihin doon? Financially independent or goal or being retired, it's not actually an age. This is what I want you guys to know. It's not an age, it is a number. So ano yung exact number na yon that will lead you to being retired, to being financially independent, and to being rich? What number will make you say that I am comfortable now, I am secured, and that I won't have to worry, and I don't have to work and worry, or not work and worry na wala na akong kakainin kinabukasan? So guys, it's not an age. It is a number. Question is, do you know your number? Can you type in the chat box kung meron dito na nakakaalam na ng number nila? So, Me, kung meron. Kung wala, not me. So, can I see your answers? Do you know your number right now? Do you already know? Have you figured out? Alam mo na ba kung ano yung number that will set you free? So yan. Most of the people in here, I've seen one, but majority says, not me. Not me. So the problem is, if we don't know our number, malaki yung financial consequence niyan. Why? Because if we don't have the number in mind, if we don't have a defined and articulated financial goal, it is hard to move forward. Diba sabi nila, a ship without a destination will never set port. Hindi siya aalis sa port. Kung hindi mo alam kung saan ka papunta yung financial journey mo, paano ka makaka-step forward? So, sobrang hirap din niya in our financial landscape kasi kung hindi mo alam kung saan ka papunta, one thing is for sure, you won't get there. And if you won't get there, malaki yung problema natin. Why? Did you know, guys, that 99% of retired individual currently, 99% is highly dependent on someone else. So, ibig sabihin, 99% of our senior citizen cannot afford to sustain their life. Ibig sabihin, ubos na yung pera, pero buhay pa. So, the thing about that is, ang mahirap doon, yung anak nila is napupunta sa bibingka generation. You know what bibingka generation is? Mostly tayo yun. Di ba ang bibingka niluluto siya sa taas at saka sa ilalim? So, kumbaga, you're being cooked on top and below. So, the same exact thing that is happening right now because 99% of our senior citizens cannot afford to live a comfortable life on their own. And therefore, the generation right now takes care of not just their family currently, but also their parents. And the hard thing about that is, you won't be able to sustain having something for yourself as well. And kung wala ka rin matitira for yourself, at the end of the day, the next generation will also suffer the same thing. So it will create a vicious cycle that we would want to wish to end. And therefore, we have to start at something. You have to know your number. Because if you don't know your number, you won't get there. And as a millennial currently right now, mas malaki pa yung problema natin kesa sa last generation. You know why? Because people right now, ang normal landscape ng millennials naman halos lahat yun nandito, di ba? O, mga bata pa, mga fresh. So dahil millennials mostly yun nandito, reality is, before, ang normal tenure ng mga employee is tumatagal sila sa company 18 to 25 years. Meaning, kung saan sila pumasok, doon na sila nagre-retire. And what's good thing about that, they have tenure. When you have tenure, you can have retirement pay. But in this time of age, alam niyo, I have a client before, it's a BPO company like yours. Gumawa kami ng plan. Ang plano lang namin, how can we make the employees stay for 36 months? Biruin mo, hirap yung mga company na pag-stayin yung mga employees nila for at least 36 months. And what will happen in the future? Kung walang tenure, yung mga millennials, because they normally jump from one job to another, they won't have retirement pay. And if they don't have retirement pay, tapos they don't save on their own, baka yung 99%, mag 99.9% na pagdating ng time natin if we don't act right on it. So it's very crucial for us to know our number. So yun, what is your goal? What is your financial goals? Anong number ba yan? So we always have to begin with an end in mind. So that is how the discussion all throughout this session will circle around. what is your financial goal. The overall objective of the discussion will have this on top of that. So number one is to define your financial goals and draw a map that starts where they are right now. Know the different ways to manage their finances, your finances, how to budget appropriately using priority approach, and know the different types of budgeting techniques that we can use, type of risk to consider in financial planning and what we can do about it. And then lastly is different investment options and how to access these options. So yan yung pag-uusapan natin. Are you guys excited? If you are, kindly chat exclamation point on our chat boxes right. Yung next natin, ayan, di ba sabi ko nga, you have to know your goals and then you check your options on how to get it. We have to start with your goals. So there are 3 types of goals that we can set for today. Number 1, you can type it easy. You can create a goal that is easy to achieve. So ibig sabihin, I'll just set like 3,000 per month of my monthly salary and then hindi ko siya gagalawin for the next 6 months. Pwedeng ganun lang kadali yung i-start mo na goal. Pwede rin na realistic goal, like what is the best options of investment that I can get into, what is the best retirement fund that I can enter into right now. So kumbaga long-term na siya pero realistic. I'm considering some factors like kailan magka-college yung anak ko, kailan ako magre-retire, more realistic. Or sometimes some people set a goal that is like reaching a star. Like I wanted to have 300 million at age 65. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because somehow if you set a goal, diba, your actions will lead towards fulfilling that goal. And therefore, whatever it is that you have in mind, whether it be the easy goal, the realistic one, or the long shot star, diba, make sure you have your number. So right now, we're going to give an example on how you can compute like one of the normal milestone you would want to achieve. Like how do I put figures on like retirement fund, for example. So these are the normal computation that you have to take into consideration. So how can I live by interest? Because if I'm going to retire and I wouldn't want to work anymore, or even if I want to work, I don't have to, then I have to live by interest or by income. Living passively with the sources of income that may come, even if I don't put too much effort on it. So if I'm going to figure out a number for this, so I'd like you to take out your calculator, so whether it be on your cell phone or on your laptop, and do it on your own. So you just key in your annual income and then multiply it by a certain factor. Would you want to retire after 10 years, after 15 years, 20, 25, or 30? So pick a number there and then multiply your annual income. And then divide it by 5%, and that is your magic number. So, for example, if I am earning like 50,000 per month times 12, that will be 600,000. For example, I wanted to retire after 20 years. So I multiply that by 2.19 and I'll have 1,314,000. And I divide that by 5%, then I'll have 26,280,000, and that is my goal. After 20 years, I should have at least 26 million in my bank account or in my investment fund. So, paano ko nakuha na dinivide ko siya sa 5%? Because if I have 26 million of principal and I invest it to something that earns even 5% lang per year, I'm still going to get the 1.3 million every year. So, saan ko nakuha yung 1.3 million? Why do I have to multiply it by factor? So, I just key in the idea of inflation rate. What do I mean by that? Diba alam naman natin, guys, ang bilihin nagmamahal. So kung ikaw hindi nagmamahal, pues ang bilihin nagmamahal yan. So ibig sabihin, kung nagmamahal siya, dapat kinikiin mo sa projections mo yung possibility na tataas yung presyo ng mga bilihin. And that is what these factors means. So the factors is habang tumatagal, syempre lalong lumataas yung bilihin. Take it for the example of dating value meal sa Jollibee. Dati yung 39 pesos natin, di ba? May ulam na, may kanin, may drinks pa. Now, 39 pesos is just fries. Hindi ka na mabubusog. So, if you want to do this personally on your own, you can copy this, the HTTP bit.ly hashtag free inflation calculator, and then do it on your own. So, yun. For accountants here, you can do it using this. So, we used 1.04 inflation rate or 4% based on TSA. So, you can always do it at home. So, whatever it is, when you do your goal, don't forget to key in inflation rate. So, yan. Any question about inflation rate? So, if wala akong makikita sa chat, I'll move forward. So, di ba, we have to start at something. Ang una nating assignment is, what are your goals? And then, you have to know your timeline also. So, di ba, sabi nila, when you set a goal, it has to be smart. It has to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Because if it's not, then it's close to saying na hindi ko rin alam yung target ko. So the next thing that you should consider is asking yourself, where am I right now? And what are the things that I have to do to get to where I wanted to be? So when starting a financial plan, I'd like you guys to take note of this. Even if the 26 million seems to be a very huge number, don't worry because it's not a sprint. I didn't tell that kinabukasan dapat may 26 million ka na. Both think it's a marathon. And a marathon has different phases. It's a long run. So, mahaba siya. And we are so lucky that as early as now, we get to decide how much is our number, what are the things that we can do because we still have a long way to go. Diba? Imagine you preparing for your retirement at age 62. So you are on track because you are still young and you can still do something. Also, I'd like you to take this into consideration. Sometimes kasi kapag parang ang liit lang ng sinasahod ko, ang liit lang ng tatabi ko, parang wala naman siyang pupuntahan. Ang target ko, 26 million, sobrang layo. Mind you guys, small, seemingly insignificant action, when done consistently over time, it will lead to stunning results. And just by that, I would like to go back to the second slide that I have kanina. Para lang magkaroon ng other ideas yung mga participant natin. Can you see this? So this is number of years, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 hanggang 7 years, for example. So how to reach 500 million, for example. So within your first 2 to 10 years, mahirap guys magbuo ng first million, for example. So you have to battle out how to create your first million first. So sabi nila, try to put big goals but make your goals smaller. So diba parang contradicting? Ibig sabihin, for example, my goal is to reach 500 million. But I have to break it down into pieces. How am I going to get there? So dito, first 2 to 3 years, 10 years, sobrang hirap kumuha ng 10 million. But mind you guys, if you already have the money, the financial conversation, it starts to be different. Somehow, after compounding years, so ibig sabihin, nag-i-earn ka ng interest, rich people talk about multiples. So therefore, when they reach 10 million, they don't just put it in an investment that will give them interest that will compound. They look for other opportunities that can multiply their money for them to be able to reach whatever number they have. See, that's how you plan. But again, you have to start at something. And when you start at something, define your goal, then make it into bits of pieces of targets that you can chew and attain. So yun. Any questions so far? So for sure wala pa kasi halos introduction pa lang tayo guys. So I hope you were able to calculate your own number for now. That is just a small um, sample. So there are a lot of financial goals that you need to compute and to plan for. And what those are, you are the only one who can tell it to yourself. So my advice is for you to create a strategy. Then revise if you have to, but don't ever give up because our financial journey is a marathon. So it's a marathon and not a sprint. So we start now with our basic financial plan. So yan, mag-umpisa na tayo. So I'd like to ask you guys, what is your favorite number? Can you just type in the chat box your favorite number, please? Para makita natin. So yan, meron 18, 1, 2, 18, 7, 9, 7, 10, 7, 21. Ang daming may gusto sa 7 ah. So, bongga. So me, my favorite number is actually 28,000. And if there are any advisor here or someone who have been discussed, kumbaga meron nang nakapag-discuss sa kanila about financial planning, might have heard of this. You know what, guys? My favorite number is actually 28,000. Why? Because 28,000 is the number of days most of us is going to stay here on Earth. If you're going to break it down into years, so divide mo yan sa 365, that will actually give you almost 80 years. So sa parang mga 77. But let's just round it off to 80 years. So sabi, based on study guys, we are going to live 80 years here on Earth. And I'd like you to take note of this. Your first 20 is mag-aaral ka, tama? So ngayon nga na-extend eh. Pero first 20 years of your life, you're actually studying. 21 to 40, you're trying to meet ends, kung ano yung mga kailangan mo sa life, dyan ka mag-marry, dyan ka mag-aakaanak, and then magpapaaral ka ng sarili mong mga anak. Tama ba? And then 41 to 60 is your time for you to take care of yourself, prepare for your retirement, pero dyan, nag-accumulate ka na ng mga assets and ng mga wealth. And then finally, you're going to retire at 68 to 80. So what I'd like you to see in here or to realize in here is that half of your life, you don't have income. Another half of your life, you have. So may aso. So anong ibig sabihin nun? Ibig sabihin, half of your life na nag-earn ka, hindi mo pwedeng inuubos yun dun sa duration na 21 to 60. Because first 21 to 40, you're going to lend it to somebody else. That's going to be your children. 41 to 60, you have to prepare on your own. Because half of your life, you don't have earnings. Half of your life, you have. So it's up to you what you're going to do on those years that you are earning. Okay?
Doon ka. Kay ate.
Okay. So yan. These are the basic financial planning that you can do. So I've got this from Randall Chongson, No Nonsense Personal Finance Book, which is very simple and yet very important. So number one, on how to start your financial journey is to actually manage or increase your cash flow. Anong ibig sabihin ng cash flow for the non-accountants here? So, simple lang. Magkano yung perang pumapasok and magkano yung lumalabas? Number one rule, kailangan may natitira. Why? Kasi kung walang natitira, guys, ibig sabihin nun hindi ka nag-i-improve. Hindi tumataas yung network mo. Hindi tumataas yung value mo. Para ka nag-start at zero and then you always go back to zero. Kahit na tumatanda or nag-accumulate ka ng years. Therefore, number one is to have you manage your cash flow. Make sure na may natitira. Again, to remind you, half of your life, wala kang income. And therefore, this time na nag-i-income ka, you should be able to save at least some part of it for the half part of your life that you don't have income. Number two, if you have to get out of debt. Lalo na mga credit card debts na nagpapatong-patong lang yung interest. So, kung meron kang car loan na nagpapatong-patong din yung interest, you have to get out of it. Why? Because yung sana binabayad mo sa interest, nagagamit mo siya as a saving, as an investment na kumikita sana yung pera para sa'yo. But there are actually good debts, yung mga naipupuhunan sa business, that's good. But if it's a debt for just consumption, then it's going to be a bad debt and you have to get out of it. Number three is you have to set up an emergency plan. I have a specific portion of the talk with that, so I won't go detailed on that now. And then number four is getting protected from life risks. So those are the insurances. And then number five, you have to invest for your future. So our session will have a discussion on the 3, 4, and 5. For the 1 and 2, that will be under our budgeting portion. So let's move forward. So what are the normal Filipino brackers? Bakit kaya hindi nakakapag-ipon ang normal Filipino? So ito yung mga lumabas sa survey. So marami sa atin yung one-day millionaire. So I've experienced this before nung bago ako gumraduate, nag-BPO ako, so nag-call center ako for a while. And most of my peers, pagdating ng sahod, iinom yan, lalabas. So half or halos 3/4 na ng salary nila, uubusin nila in just a day. So yan, one-day millionaire. So, alam mo yun, yung sinahod mo, pinaghirapan mo for 15 days, hindi mo siya pwedeng ubusin in just a day. So, number 2, pasalubong sa bayan. We have this mentality na kailangan natin magpasalubong, magbigay sa nasa bahay or whatever. So, next is fiesta mentality. So, we have a lot of feasts that we want to celebrate, baptism, birthday, graduation, despedida. So, yun. So, these are the things that normally blocks us from achieving our wealth. And there's nothing wrong about this, but we have to manage it. Like, if you wanted to have party, there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to set aside specific fund for these particular occasions. And do not get everything coming from the other portions of your budget na nakaalat for something else. So, there. And then, yeah, etong pinakaayaw ko sa lahat, yung utang then charge to credit card. I have this friend na she has 4 credit cards, all maxed out, tapos nagastos lang yun for groceries and food ng family and other gadgets. So, her mentality is she is not checking his credit card, and then she's just going to pay yung minimum due every month. And that's scary. Why? Because the actual utang na meron siya is just like around 300,000. And it ballooned to almost 1 million. And ganun ka-tricky yung credit card. Why? Because they charge 3% per month on top of the late payment charges and everything. So, don't do credit cards if you can't handle it properly. And then keeping up with the Santoses, again, we normally want to show off. Lalo na ngayon, digital world, Instagram. Kakain tayo sa mamahaling restaurant, even if, diba, 10% of their salary will go there na for just a day, for just a meal, so that we can just post it on Instagram. The myth, diba, we want that. And there's nothing wrong again with that. But keep it at a minimum and limit it to an amount that you can just handle. And again, you can always set aside a specific percentage of your income that will go to your lifestyle. Just don't overspend on that area, because that's not the only area that you would want to spend. Okay. So, yung last natin is yung bahala na nature. So, di ba normally, sige, bahala na gastos. Bahala na. So, Yan yung pinaka nakakatakot kasi when we don't care about our future, dyan tayo normally natatalo. Because we just don't care. We just give up and we just don't want to do anything about it. And hopefully by the end of the session, none of us will say bahala na to our future. Because it's really hard to put our future into luck. Diba? So, bahala na. Baka yumaman ako or baka tumama ako sa loto. So, walang ganon, Mars. Walang ganon. So yan, ano yung mga financial hacks natin na pwede nating gamitin? There are 2 underrated financial hacks na hindi natin ginagamit madalas. And these are planning and budgeting. And this is coming, I for one is speaking, coming from a CPA by profession, na hindi rin yung ginagamit kahit ng mga peers ko. We do this for the companies, for the clients. We handle multi-million accounts, di ba? We do budgeting, we do planning for hours, and we know the importance of this, lalo na yung mga nasa finance. Pero pag tinanong mo, are you doing this for yourself? Ginagawa mo ba yung simple planning and budgeting para sa sarili mo? Sasabihin nila, hindi. Busy ako eh. Di ba? So busy ka to manage other people's account, pero we forget to manage our own. And these are just simple. If you know your goals, you can have simple plan. It doesn't have to be intricate. Hindi siya kailangan sobrang advanced and all. You just have to have a simple plan and a simple budgeting technique para yung goals natin in life, at least ma-take off natin. Or we are a step ahead of what we want, of our goals. So number 1, plan. I would like to suggest that you guys put it in writing. When you plan, put it in writing. So, hindi pwede na nasa utak mo lang. Promise, hindi pwede. Because I know some people na lahat ng plano niya nasa isip niya lang. At kung nasa isip mo lang, baka hindi yan magkatotoo. Why? Kasi we tend to forget about it. Wala na tayong babalikan. Makakalimutan mo. So, put it in writing. Number 2 is make it visible. So make it visible. What do I mean by that? If you have a room, post it there. If you have laptops, make it your wallpaper. Cell phones, make it your wallpaper. Make it visible. Because you always have to be reminded of your goals and your plans. Sabi nila, out of sight, out of mind. Kapag hindi ka nare-remind, hindi mo yan nakikita, hindi ka babalik doon at gagawin yon. Diba? Parang sa company, yung annual budget nyo, lagi yung ini-email, lagi yung sinisend, lagi yung pinapakita sa'yo at sasabihin nasaan ka na. Are you behind budget? Are you behind target? So on your own personal goals, you always have to be reminded kung ano yung goals mo na sinet mo in the first place. Nasaan ka na. So ang like kong example dyan, for someone aiming to have 5 million in 5 years and has 500,000 on his or her bank account, would you think gagastos siya dun sa 500,000 na yun? Yes or no? Can you type it in our chat box? For someone aiming to have 5 million in 5 years, who has 500,000 in his bank account or her bank account, would you think gagastos yun ng wala lang? Most likely hindi. But for someone who doesn't have a target, 500,000 might be a big amount already. And therefore, alam mo, ang utak natin, money problems is mostly behavioral. And if I see my wallet na parang, ay, ang daming laman. Tapos, ay, ito, tagal ko na itong gusto eh. If you don't have a target, napakadali. Bili ko, sige, 100,000 lang, may matitira pa naman 400. Diba? But if I have a goal na 5 million, and that 5 million is very important to me because that would mean a business na pinapangarap ko, or an educational fund na pinapangarap ko, or the retirement that I wanted so badly. May isip ko, shucks, ang layo ko pa. 500,000, 10% pa lang ako. 10,000, hindi pala 10. Or whatever, 10% lang. So, di ba, if you have a target in mind, yung decisions mo, are likely intelligent decisions that is leaning towards the fulfillment of such goal. But if you don't have one, then 500,000 may be a huge amount of money for you. And therefore, ang dali rin niyang ubusin. So, when you plan, you have to put it in writing, make it visible, and consistently visit it. Kasi for all you know, nung nadan mo na yung 5 million, oh, may 5 million na ako. What's next? Eh, ang totoo kong target nasa 40 million eh. So, what am I going to do with this 5 million to make me closer to my 40 million goal, for example? So, consistently visit. Okay, so number 2 natin is budgeting. So, budgeting, underrated siya. Why? Kasi normally pag tinanong mo yung mga tao, nagbabudget ka ba? When you, sasabihin niya, yes. Pero pag tinanong mo, o magkano natitira sa'yo per month, hindi ko alam. How can you budget when you don't know kung saan napupunta yung pera mo? So, important thing is, you have, tatlo lang naman yung kailangan mong malaman. Number 1, magkano sahod mo? Magkano yung pumpasok na income? Pangalawa, magkano yung lumalabas sa expense? Pangatlo, magkano yung natitira? Tapos doon tayo mag-usap. Doon sa natitira, where do you want to put it? Is this for my leisure? Is this for my long-term goal? Is this for my mid-term goal? So, pero kung dun sa budget mo, walang net income na lumalabas or walang natitira, ang una kong papagawa sa'yo is handle your finances better. Check on the expenses kung ano dyan yung may leakages and then bawasan mo yun. Kung hindi talaga kaya, find an alternative income. Because hindi ka pwede na nagne-negative yung inflow mo. Mababaon ka sa utang. So when we budget, our main focus and main goal is, number 1, how much is my income? How much are the expenses? What am I going to do with the excess? So hindi pwedeng matapos sa income minus outflow tapos net inflow. Anong gagawin natin sa excess? Will it contribute to the bigger number that I would want to achieve? Magko-contribute pa siya dun sa final number ko that will make me feel rich? Kasi di ba sabi natin, being rich is a number. So, marami tayong pwedeng hacks na gamitin. We can do Excels, we can have an app, we can even write it in our notebook. Some old schools, and I do this personally, I have it on an envelope. So, anong ginagawa ko? Every month, I'm just going to withdraw yung nakaalat ko for my expenses for the entire month. And then, my savings, ilalagay ko na siya sa specific bank account kung para saan siya. So, when I have that envelope, kasi tamad ako mag-jot down ng mga expenses, I would just only be reminded na kung hindi pa katapusan at nauubos na yung pera sa envelope ko, ibig sabihin nun, sumusobra na ako sa gastos. Simple as that. But other people, they have intricate way of doing their budget. Ito yung one sample. Can you see my screen? Can you type in exclamation point? And if you can see this ABC always be closing budgeting form. So some of them, they have this. They have operating, investing, financing. So mas intricate way. They also have their wealth. They're checking in on their coverages. Kung ano yung mga targets nila, they have this. So different people, different ways on how they handle their budget. Some people would have this. So yan. Kung kailan po gusto mag-retire, whatever. So may mga ganyan sila. Some people would have like this, simple budgeting. So ilan yung salary, ilan yung expenses. Some people would have like this. So I have different targets, like my retirement fund should be like this, my business fund should be like this, my travel fund should be like this. So every people have different options or different ways on how they do budget. So what is your favorite, what is suitable for you? You ask yourself. What is suitable for you is the one that you can sustain for a long run, because budgeting will have to be present with you all the time. So some have application, and I've checked on this 8 apps that will help you manage your money. So you can just download some of this app. All of these are for free. So you had Good Budget, Wallet Budget Bakers, Blue Coins, Budget, Simple Expense Note, Fortune City, Money Lover, and Money. So these are applications that will help you budget. So most of them are expense um, trackers. So see, there are a lot of different options that you can have. You can even use your notebook kung old school ka talaga. Whatever it is, keep it in writing and make it always visible. So also, you might want to be guided on this. So sabi nila, medyo ideal daw is 20% savings, 50% for my needs and wants, and then 30% for my wants pala. So 20% savings and investment, 50% for my needs, and then 30% for my wants. So if you can do this with your salary, better. If you can do more than 20%, better. If not, check if you can still have a way to make this possible. Any questions so far? Are you still there? Can you type in exclamation point if you guys are still there? So yeah, nice one. So yung next natin is we have the budget, we have the plan. So when we plan, normally, the normal mistakes that we have is that we plan during perfect days. Our plan normally contains, after 3 years, mapopromote ako, so magkakaroon ako ng salary increase. Our plan is, sa December, magkaka-13th month pay, magkaka-bonus. Our plan is, okay, magka-college siya sa ganito. Everything is perfect. Thing is, everything is not going to be perfect all the time. And therefore, when you plan, when you budget, you have to incorporate risk along the way. What do I mean by that? There could be sad events that happen or that will happen or that might happen along the way. We couldn't know for sure. But because we are properly planning, we have to take it into consideration early on. And what are these three sad things? Could be sickness, accident, or even death. And we have to key that in our financial planning portfolio. So, sabi ko kanina, I'm going to discuss about emergency fund and insurance. So, here it is. So, for our emergency fund, please watch this video.
Life is full of surprises, but you can be better prepared to handle them by building an emergency fund. Think of it as your financial safety net, a reliable source of money when you need it, so you don't have to resort to credit cards and loans. It's part of any good financial plan. Here are 3 things to know about an emergency fund. 1. How much to save. We suggest saving at least 3 to 6 months of living expenses. It may take time to get there, and that's okay. The important thing is to start today with what you can afford, and then build your way up to 5% of your paycheck. A helpful tip is to take advantage of automatic deposits, which help you put away a little bit each pay period without even thinking about it. 2. Where to keep your money. To avoid the temptation of tapping into your emergency fund for day-to-day expenses, we suggest keeping your money in a separate account. Consider a savings or money market account, so you have an easy way to access your cash when you need it, while you earn some interest in the meantime. 3. What to use it for. Only use your emergency fund for true emergencies, like health expenses, critical home and auto repairs, or paying essential expenses after a job loss. If you do have an emergency, be sure to replenish the money you use, so it will be there for next time. Life happens, but an emergency fund can help you weather the unexpected and turn a potential financial catastrophe into an inconvenience. Together, we can help you build a strong financial foundation so you're more prepared to face life's unknowns.
So, yun. So, ano yung mga nakuha natin sa emergency fund? Can you type in kung ano yung mga nakuha niyo sa emergency fund in our chat box? So, emergency fund by definition is a fund or an account set aside funds needed in the event of a personal financial dilemma, such as job loss, illnesses, and major expense. And we couldn't kumbaga emphasize enough or more kung ano yung needs ng emergency fund, lalo na ngayon, 'di ba, na pandemic. Some of my friends lost their jobs, 'di ba? Some of us were forced to take in unpaid leaves because the companies can no longer sustain yung pa-salary sa mga tao. And you guys are so lucky because you are still having salary, nasa TOWA pa kayo, most of you might be work from home, 'di ba? But emergency fund is really necessary. Why? Because kung biglang may mangyari na emergency, 'di ba? Ayaw mo na mangutang ka. Ayaw mo na kuhain mo yung para sana um, sa long-term goals mo. Yung para sana doon sa amount na makakapag-fulfill sa'yo na rich ka na. Diba? So you have to set a specific fund for your emergency fund. Some says it should be 3 months, some says it should be 6 months, some 12. So however conservative you are, you will be the one to know how much is emergency fund you should set aside. Kapag meron ka nung amount na yun, feeling mo ba secure ka, then that's your emergency fund amount. So yeah,
Want to
yung
live a
next
long
natin
and
will be
happy life?
importance of life
Easy.
insurance.
Just avoid these
so,
dangerous
I'll be playing
situations.
this again. Nag-play na ba?
Want to live a long and happy life? Easy. Just avoid these dangerous situations. Throw out your bed. Falling out of bed kills 450 people annually. Of course, always watch what you eat. And eat from. Never use a vending machine or even stand close to one. They kill 13 people a year. And ants? They cause 30 deaths per year. So if you see ants, run. But not too fast. 6 runners die per year during races. So stay indoors, but try not to move. 18,000 deaths occur from accidental injuries in the home. Baths alone kill 340 people. Oh, and not to mention heart disease, respiratory illnesses, stroke, cancer, and unintentional injuries. If you're able to avoid all this, you will greatly increase your chances of living a long and happy life. The truth is, the only way to protect yourself is to make sure you can provide for your loved ones no matter what happens, even if you're one of the 130 people killed by deer. Life insurance is the safety net that protects your family financially if you can't be there to support them. A life insurance policy provides a lump sum of money that is paid to your beneficiaries upon your death. The money can be used for lost income, funeral expenses, bills, funding a child's college education, and more. Whatever you need, there's a policy right for you. Term life insurance is coverage intended for a specific period of time, typically from 5 to 30 years. Whole life or permanent life insurance covers you for life and includes a savings component that helps grow tax-deferred income that, after time, can be used as a loan, to pay premiums, or as added death benefits for your beneficiaries. Term and whole life insurance policies require a medical exam, but there are also no medical exam life insurance policies that can be secured in as quickly as 24 hours. Interested in learning more about life insurance and why you should have it? Visit our Learning Center or FAQ page. If you're ready to get started or have questions for our life insurance representatives, fill out the form below for a free life insurance quote today. Then, celebrate your new security by going to the beach. Sharks only kill 5 people a year. Less than all these things.
So, paano ba natin kinocompute yung ideal life insurance coverage? So, there are a lot of ways on how to compute for the ideal insurance coverage. But for me, this is how I suggest to compute it. So, normally, conservative basis, annual income dapat divided by 5%. Pero, let's just say annual expense. So, why annual expense? Kasi if you are the one paying for the expenses of the family and you know for a fact na hindi sila makakasurvive without your contribution to the household expenses. So, mahihirapan yung family natin. So, at the very least, dapat yung annual expense na sinasagot natin, may karampatan siyang ideal life insurance coverage. So, kunyari yung annual expenses ng family is 20,000. So, times ko yan sa 12, so that would be 240,000. Yung 240,000, i-divide ko siya sa 5%. So, ang ideal coverage niya is 4.8 for the life insurance expense for the household expenses per se. So, ano ibig sabihin nun? If I'm an advisor, tapos may nangyari dun sa insured ko, I'm going to go to the family and explain that this 4.8 million is actually to support the family for the household expenses. Sasabihin ko sa family na i-invest yung 4.8 million into anything that will give them at least 5% per year. Why? Para yung 240,000 per year or 20,000 per month na expenses ni family, masasagot na nung interest or nung income nung mismong insurance coverage. So how will that go? If you have 4.8 million and you invest it to something that will earn 5%, I multiply 4.8 to 5%, that would give me 240,000. So the family will still have the 240,000 annually or 20,000 per month despite na nawala na si insure. Ayun yung tinatawag natin na income continuation. So at the very least, si insured and the family of the insured will still get to have the amount of money that the insured is giving to the family. So ano to, plus life milestone we want to guarantee. So for example, I know my kid is going to attend college. So of course the 20,000 per month will not suffice because I still have to guarantee that my kid will go to college at some point. So kung yung cost ng college expense niya is let's say 2 million. So tatapatan ko rin yun ng karampatan na insurance because that is still in the future. Hindi ko alam kung may mangyayari sa akin after 2 years, after 3 years, after 4 years from now. So I would want to guarantee that the education of my kids will still happen despite me not having in the picture. So ang question is, paano after 20 years kung alive ka pa? Then that's good news kasi at least you get to live after 20 years, diba? Or after 15 years pa rin. But ano nang gagawin mo dun sa 2 million insurance cover? If there's many things that you can do about it. Why? Kasi pwede ko yung i-transfer into my estate planning, pwede ko na gawin na kasama yan dun sa pang-mortgage ko ng mga loans, etc., etc. So there are a lot of things that you can do thereafter. But the thing is, kung kukuha ka ngayon or mag-open ka ng plan ngayon, I suggest that you also secure life's milestone. Like for example, gusto ko magkaroon ng house. Ito wala namang problema kasi nire-require talaga to ng bank. So pag kukuha ka ng house, you would want to secure it at 4.5 million. Kasi ayaw mo na pag may nangyari sa'yo bigla, yung family mo yung sasagot ng expenses na yon. So, car for example, nangyari lang, 1 million. So, ganyan kumumpute ng ideal life insurance coverage. So, if I'm the advisor of this family of these people, so ganyan ko siya kukumputin. So, thing is, if we are planning and included in our plan are like education for our family, support, continuous support for our family, then life insurance is very important for you. Because insurance is a means of protection from a financial loss. It is a form of risk management primarily used to hedge against risk of a contingent and uncertain loss. So, a comprehensive solution against uncertainties in life, which is sad events, sickness, accident, and death. So, hindi pwede na kapag nagplano ka, everything is perfect. Lalo na kung merong mga tao na umaasa sa salary mo, sa income mo. Lalo na kung head of the family ka. Kung meron ka pang parents na sinusuportahan. Kung wala ka namang parents na sinusuportahan and you're all alone, then you don't need insurance yet. Diba? Pero if you have, and then you're planning to put up education funds for your kids, to have a roof over your family for the next 5-10 years, then you definitely need an insurance. Because we cannot, hindi natin pwedeng isugal yung future ng family natin over these uncertainties. So we have to protect our dreams, we have to protect our goals no matter what. So that is for a life insurance. So there are two types of risk, dying too soon or living too long. And if you die too soon, then probably your family will not be able to continue living on what type of current living situation they have. And therefore, you have to have an insurance for that. If you die too long, diba, you live too long, then you definitely have to have your magic number by that time. So essential planning, risk-based planning, and budgeting is really important. So other than the life insurance, other than the emergency fund, you also have to create a funding for your healthcare. So healthcare funding is a special topic for me. Why? Because I normally would want to know how our healthcare system works. You guys are lucky because you belong to 5 million out of the 256 working Filipinos who have HMO. I know you have. So there, out of the 206 Filipino na nag-work currently, only 5 million has an HMO. And the sad thing about that is 9 out of 10 of those Filipinos has only 100,000 benefits for the HMO. And the sad thing about that again is, sa diagnosis pa lang, yung HMO ubos na. And therefore, if you don't have a proper health funding, diba? So forget about life insurance, for instance. Think about your health. Because everyone needs this. Even if you're single, even if you're just starting out on your career, you need this in your plan. Why? If I wanted to have like 5 million in 5 years, I'm halfway through it. Nasa 2 years na ako. Then nagkaroon ako ng stroke. Then all of my savings, the 2.6 million investments that I have, will just go to the hospitals if I don't have a proper funding for myself. Why? Everyone would say, meron namang PhilHealth. So, PhilHealth is good. If you are Filipino, you are automatically covered by PhilHealth now because of the Universal Health Bill, right? But to give you a heads up, guys, if you are a female and you have a breast cancer, PhilHealth will shoulder 100,000. For all other cancers, you will have 20,000. If you are a male and if you have prostate cancer, you'll have 100,000 from PhilHealth. For all other types of cancer, you'll just have 20,000. If you are a child and if you have acute leukemia for children, you'll have 100,000. But for any other types of diseases, you'll have maximum 20,000. So if you are a Filipino living in the Philippines, you have a healthcare problem. And therefore, you must be able to have this included in your financial planning, in your financial assessment. Why? Because if we are halfway through earning or getting our 5 million, nasa 2.5 na tayo, any of these diseases, come along the way, ubos yun. And mind you guys, out of the top 10 causes of death in the Philippines, 9 of those are critical illnesses. Thing is, you're gonna get sick before you die. And if you're going to get sick before you die, you have to fund it. So I have a video also again for this. I hope this will play out. If it's not, we're going to move forward. So let's just check if this is going to play. And
Yes, usapang health insurance po. Ay, naku, hindi mo naman talaga kailangan ng health insurance. Talaga, Chinky, hindi. Talagang hindi. Oo, bakit po? Number 1, hindi mo kailangan ng health insurance kung hindi ka nagkakasakit dahil meron kang supernatural powers. Woo! Number 2, hindi mo kailangan ng health insurance kung may-ari ka ng hospital. Di ba? Kasi wala ka nang babayaran. Hindi mo rin kailangan ng third ng health insurance kung anak ka ng mayaman. But if you don't fall to any of these 3 categories, kailangan mo ng health insurance. Bakit ba talaga natin kailangan ng health insurance? Sinki, gastusin pa lang yan. Alam niyo naman po ang nangyayari po dahil sa mga nagkakasakit po, dahil because of this virus na ito. Eh nako, hindi nyo lang po alam na tahimik lang po ang pinag-uusapan lang na po natin yung mga nagkasakit, pinag-uusapan lang po natin probably yung mga namatay. Pero hindi po natin pinag-uusapan yung bills. Ay, tignan po natin kung magkano yung bills. Alam mo ba, yung isang bill po naman ng COVID patient po, according to isang news item po, ay umabot lang po ng 3 million pesos. 3 million lang po. Meron po isa namang tinamaan din ng COVID po. 18 days lang po ang kanyang pinamalagi lang sa ospital. Ang bill lang po niya ay 1 million pesos na tumataginting. Ay, kaya nga po. Kaya nga milyon na milyon po ang hospital bills ng ating mga kababayan nagkakaroon ng sakit na ito. Hindi lang po sakit ng katawan, kundi sakit ng bulsa ang dinadanas sila. Alam mo, sa panahon ngayon talagang mahirap magkasakit. At mas lalo na kung kapos po ang ating pambayad sa ating medical expenses. Ay, kaya kailangan po magdoble ingat po tayo sa global health crisis na ito dahil ito hindi po biro mga friends ha, hindi ito talaga to biro. Marami pa akong nababalitaan na umaaray na po, hindi lang po sa sakit, umaaray din po sa mga bills ng hospitals. Kaya nga po.
When it comes to critical illness insurance, knowing the proper medical definitions is essential.
Well, the major critical illnesses are those that are potentially life-threatening. Pag ang kliyente na-diagnose na meron nitong major critical illness, the threat to life is almost real or almost immediate. No? The minor critical illnesses, if you will notice the list, are mostly procedures which will prevent progression to the major critical illness. So you have different procedures there, and of course, it was also mentioned that early cancers are considered as minor critical illnesses.
Aside from knowing the proper medical terms, it's also imperative to review one's policy carefully.
Most important thing about claiming for critical illness, the client should be able to gather all the medical information, specifically pathology reports, the diagnosis of their doctors, the hospital records, so that there will be no problems when they claim for a critical illness benefit. That is why it is not the advisor's responsibility anymore to make sure that the documents submitted are correct. These will be reviewed by our claims analysts, and if there are any deficiencies or questions about the medical documents submitted, then they refer to us here at the medical department.
Critical illness insurance. Ask yourself, are you covered when life-altering critical illness hits you? Will your financial health still be on track if you need to spend as much as ₱1 million for your hospital expenses? Critical illness insurance is designed to pay the expenses associated with life-altering illnesses, so you can focus on getting well and not on your finances. To know more about Sun Life's health and accident insurance products, talk to a Sun Life advisor today or visit sunlife.com.ph.
Kahit anong alaga mo, kahit anong ingat mo, pwedeng tamaan ka pa rin ng matindi. I'm talking about your health. That's why health insurance is important to me. Sunfit and Well gives life and health coverage, from prevention, diagnosis, treatment, to rehabilitation. It pays to be fit and well covered.
Ayan. So, nakita niyo yung discussion about health insurance. Ganun siya ka-importante. So, yung sa health insurance kasi, kahit sinong Pilipino, pwede niyang tamaan. And lagi kong sinasabi sa mga talks ko, if you are a Filipino living in the Philippines, you have a healthcare funding problem. So, meron ako ikukwento sa inyo, guys. Normally, pag nag-audit ako, ang normal clients ko are pharmaceutical companies. I have this one pharmaceutical companies na last year, nag-conduct sila ng survey to cancer patient across Asia. Tapos, ang question lang nila, one of the question that they throw to their participants is, if you are diagnosed with cancer, would you seek treatment if you have insurance? So, yun yung tanong. So, di ba, ang dali namang sagutin. If you have insurance, then you are diagnosed with cancer, would you seek treatment or help? Siyempre, ang sagot normally, yes, di ba? Alam nyo guys, all of the countries across Asia answered yes, except for one country. And syempre, tayo yun. Di ba? So, bakit kaya? And then, syempre, the company, dig deeper on the questionnaire and ask the participants, why? The thing is, if you are in the Philippines, normally, hindi natin pinapa-check up yung mga early on symptoms. Tama ba? We normally parang sinisway lang natin. Hindi tayo magpapa-check up. We don't have any public screening. Unlike other countries, they have early public screening for those type of diseases. Tayo wala. We don't also have underwriting costs or treatments. Kumbaga, yung mga hospital, kanya-kanya yan silang charge. Walang nag-moderate, wala rin nag-mediate kung magkano lang dapat yung causes para matreat yung specific cancer or what. And normally, kapag Pilipino ka, makaramdam ka ng may bukol or something, you fall into denial at first. And then, a typical Filipino would just go to the doctor kapag medyo obvious na yung mga symptoms. Kapag metastatic stage na. In metastatic stage, normally, stage 3 or 4 na. So, at that stage, normally, ang question na lang is, would you want to get treated or not? And majority of the Filipino parents would say, wag na lang. Why? Kasi, kunyari yung health coverage nila, itatabi na lang nila para kung sakasakala mo yung mangyari sa kanila, mapunta na lang yun dun sa beneficiary. So, ganun tayo ka-noble to our family. At the same time, ganun din tayo what's the proper term for that? Diba? I don't know. Careless or what? Kasi on other countries, first thing that they have to do, they have pre-screening. They take on the responsibility to get treated early on para hindi na dumating dun sa dulong part. But the sad thing is that the reason why I'm sharing this to you is for you to know that if you are in the Philippines, healthcare funding is really, really important. And you have to do it on your own. You have to have a financial system that will help you fund it. And there's no better way to do that than to get a healthcare insurance for that matter. So all of the discussion that we have boils around this pyramid. Number one is we have to protect whatever we have. We have to set up emergency fund. We have to have time deposit, savings, or current account. We have to have life insurance, health insurance, and debt reduction reconstructions. So that is our first thing to do in our wealth accumulation, planning process. And then number two, we have to accumulate. So we're going to have a deep discussion on that. And then later on, we won't want to conserve our wealth. We have to have an estate planning discussion. This one we're not going to discuss now because we focus on what our goals are and how we get there. So we're done with budgeting. We are done with insurances. We are done with protecting our wealth. Now we go to ways on how to accumulate our wealth. So what are the ways or different ways to accumulate our wealth? So there are a lot of different ways to accumulate our wealth, but the first basic step is actually to have a positive cash flow. So kanina pa natin pinag-uusapan, the way to have something na matira is dapat yung income mo is laging sobra sa expenses mo. Diba? Kasi kung doon pa lang sa step 1, sala na or hindi na natin siya na-achieve, diba? Or we are always going beyond our means, then there's nothing to talk about. Diba? We cannot move forward. So number 1 is you have to have a positive cash flow. So, okay. So yung next natin na step is, aside from having a savings, which is technically the net inflow of your budget, is to invest. So the only difference between savings and investing is time. Because a money that you need right there and then is called savings. Yung hindi mo kayang i-forgo for a certain amount of time. Investing, on the other hand, is the amount that you can set aside for a specific period of time and make it earn for you. So, our ways to accumulate money is number one, through also investment. So we have to make money work for us because it is the best worker we can have. Our money doesn't live, it doesn't sleep, it doesn't get tired, it doesn't even go on vacation. How wonderful is that? So you have to have your money work for you. You have to have your money your ally. It has to be on your side. So what are the different investment vehicles that you can look for or that you can go into? There are a lot of different investment vehicles. And some of those I will discuss later on. But first, let me define what investment are. An investment is an asset or item acquired with the goal of generating income or appreciation. In an economic sense, an investment is the purchase of goods that are not consumed today but are used in the future to create wealth. So it has to have the time factor. So, yeah. What are the advantages? There are advantages. We have higher risk, present potential for higher return, can beat inflation in most cases. So kanina banggit ko, di ba, 4% yung inflation. So if your investment is not earning as much as 4% per year, then you're actually losing your money even if you're saving. Diba? Kasi lumiliit yung value niya. So kailangan makahanap ka ng investment na mas mataas sa 4% yung return. It's better vehicle to grow money over a long period of time. Those are the advantages. Disadvantages, easily affected by volatile market condition, non-guaranteed returns will not give desired result when needed, and there is a risk of losing the capital. There's always that risk. So examples are stocks, mutual funds, bonds, money market, and foreign currencies, and many more. So for an investment, there are four things that you need to take into consideration. Number one is the capital. So you always have to have a capital. Either it is your time, pera ba yan, asset ba yan, there's always a capital. And then time. Sabi ko nga, if you're going to put it on a certain vehicle, you have to have time. Profit, kung ilang percent you return, and then fourth is what are the risks involved. So we always have to take into consideration the risk involved. So all those things, we have to also know what are your knowledges behind. One client asked me, Tina, ano bang best business that we can do or we can have during this pandemic? So, di ba, parang normally maraming nagaganyan nagtatanong. So, kayo ba ganun din yung tanong mo? So, ang answer ko sa kanya, it depends kung ano yung capability mo and knowledge mo. Why? Alam nyo guys, magandang business is to be a basketball player, for example, ng PBA. Why? Ang laki ng sahod nila. Ano lang puhunan nila? Skills. Pero hindi pwede siya sa lahat. Kasi hindi naman lahat kaya mag-basketball, di ba? So, depende yun sa niche mo, kung ano yung talents mo, ano yung meron ka na currently. Kung magaling ka sa baking, then baking might be a good business for you. Kung magaling ka sa damit, then, di ba, wardrobe might be a good business for you. Kung magaling ka sa finance, kumuha ka ng firm, it might be a good business for you. It has to depend on what knowledge you already have. Good thing for investment, pwede tayong mag-take in ng chances sa galing ng iba. Like for real estate, for stocks, tumataya tayo sa talent ng iba. So we're going to look into that later on. So this is the normal risk tolerance approach or risk tolerance diagram that we often share to our clients. So the younger you are, the higher the risk that you can still bear. Why? You can still have a lot of time to repair the damages of any investment mistakes that you have. You still have a lot of time to earn. So as you grow older, di ba, yung risk mo mas lumiliit ng lumiliit. Yung risk appetite mo. And later on, we're going to discuss what are the best investment options that there is for you. and what are the different types of securities that you can take into consideration. So there are general types of investment: ownership investment or lending investment. So ownership investment includes owning a certain type of asset that grows in value. So we can own stocks, we can own real estate, we can own gold, diamonds, precious objects, even bags. Sabi nila, yung value daw ng Prada tumataas. Grabe, no? So, just to give you a background also or an idea, just in time that when we thought there is no room for luxury gadgets ngayon because it's pandemic, diba? And we thought everyone must have been losing money. Nagtaas ng 10% yung presyo ng Rolex. So imagine that. So businesses also, owning a business is one form of investment. Because technically, you buy low and then you sell high. That's the normal idea of an investment. Aside from the fact that you might earn interest along the way, that you might earn dividends along the way. Other types of investment goes to lending investments. You can take into consideration or you can buy bonds directly from the government. You can buy cash CDs. You can put your money into savings account. You can even enter into a treasury bills. You can even lend some part of your money to your friends. So, but that's risky, right? Most of the time, it goes into bad debt. Joke. So, but you can either go to lending investment or ownership investment. So, depending on the risk appetite, knowledge, capital, time, profit that you have. So, for real estate, any real estate you buy and then rent out or resell is an ownership investment. Your capital may be medium to high. So, pwedeng millions yung peso yung kailangan mo, pwedeng hundreds of thousands lang, then you loan the rest. Time being, for it to grow, medium to long. So, there are specific type of investment na mahawakan mo lang ng 2 years, bigla nag-a-appraise. So, di ba, like, I have one friend, ganyan yung business niya. What he does is, he normally buys condo na malapit sa business vicinities. And then, maglalabas siya ng 20% equity. So, let's just say 5 million worth. Lalabas siya ng 1 million, 4 million ilo-loan niya. And then, to pay off the loan, ipaparent niya yung condo unit. Then, the rent will pay for the loan. Then, after 3 years, he's going to sell out the entire condo. With that, he can sell it out at 6 million. So, pay off the remaining debts. He'll have 4 million net of income. So, ganun yung, yung business strategy niya. And he started out with 1 condo. Now, he has like 10 condos. So, di ba, he is already on a stage where he multiplies his money in just 2 to 3 years time. Sobrang galing. So, if you are into real estate, you can find certain brokers or you can do it on your own. So, the risk is there is no liquidity. Kumbaga, hindi mo alam kung kailan mo siya mabebenta. Of course, we lower down the risk kung mas kilala yung mga developer kasi mas mabilis silang mabenta. So, knowledge, you have to have deep knowledge since it is a long-term investment. So, syempre, dapat alam mo yung pinapasok. Diba? Ano yung mga areas na nasa pipeline, ganyan. Kung hindi mo siya, kung wala kang knowledge about it, hire someone who has. Find a broker who can guide you. So, I'm not a licensed broker, so you can have anyone from your friends. If you need some advice, I have friends who can give you, I have expert friends who I can refer to you. So just let me know if you need an advice. So for precious objects, it could either be metal, arts, so yung mga paintings, diba, it's a good form of investment, especially to those who know its value and its worth. Collectibles, like yung mga vintage cars. So some of my bosses in my previous work, ayan yung hobby nila. Yung bibili ng mga vintage, parang isipin mo, lumang-luma na, tapos ang mahal pa ng value, nakakaloka. But for them, it's a good investment because sabi nila, tumataas daw yung value nun. So, can be considered as own type of investment if the intention is to resell them for a profit. So, don't be mistaken na bumili ako ng LV bag because it's an investment. it has to be that you have an intention to later on resell it. So, bibili ka ng gold tapos sasabihin mo investment yon. Kung wala kang balak i-resell yun at a profit later, it's not an investment. It's an ownership na personally gagamitin mo. So, you can have a precious object. Capital can be medium to high. There are 10,000 worth of objects that appraise during time, like mga gold. Pwede rin yung malalakihan, like bumibili ng mga 500,000 worth of vintage, of arts, parang 5 million worth of vintage cars. So, depende. Time could also be medium to long. Yung iba naman, they can take profit at a shorter period of time. Bibili ng murang alahas, mabibenta at a profit. So it could either be owning a precious object or entering into, di ba, business of selling yung mga precious objects. Profit, you can take advantage of it either medium or long time or high to low then. And then risk, there is a risk of loss, mawala yung mismong object, manakaw, liquidity also, baka mahirap ibenta. Knowledge, basic to advanced. So, depende sa precious object na ino-own mo. The major or the summary is that whatever investment that you have, you always have this 5. You have the capital, you have to have the time, you have to check in the profit, the risk, and then what are your knowledge involved. So putting money or time towards starting your own business or a product or service meant to earn a profit is another type of ownership investment. Capital can either be low, medium, or high. I know some people who started their business at 2,000 pesos. I know some people who started their business as 500 million pesos. So whatever type of business you have in mind, you will have a certain type of capital. It could either be low, medium, or high. Time, it could be one day, bumili ka ng short, binenta mo kinabukasan, day one, kumita ka na. Some of the businesses takes forever to generate income. So profit depends on knowledge, capital, preparedness, and time allotted. Risk could be high risk, especially those heavily depending on huge fixed assets and fixed expenses. And then knowledge, deep knowledge about the business you wanted to take in. So others, there are a lot of different types of investment or are things that you can enter into. You can be venture capitalist, you can have Bitcoin, you can have Forex trading, you can enter into options, into hedge funds, exchange traded funds, tainted assets, real estate investment trust funds, and others. So there are a lot of investment options that you can take into consideration. So you just have to take a look. But if you don't have time to really dig deeper on what type of investment I really want, so these are the basic things that you can own. You can have stocks, you can have bonds, you can have other alternatives that you can enter into. Why? Because stocks and bonds are easily, pwede mo siya makuha ng mabilis. And you don't have to have a deep knowledge about the trading because there are a lot of brokers who can do the trading for you. There are a lot of investment managers who can do this for you. So yun. And also, you can have an capital na maliit lang, and you can also go as high as you can. Time horizon is either 3 to 10 years to 15 years. So let's start with bonds. So bonds earn from interest and the increase in worth of bonds. When you buy a bond, you're lending money to a company or governmental entity such as a city, a state, or a nation. So, pwedeng tumaas yung value ng bonds. Bakit tataas siya? Kasi kung long period of time yan, like 20 years to pay na bonds, pinagtatalonan natin kung magkano yung attached interest. And depending on that, tumataas yung value niya kasi tinitrade din po yung bond papers natin sa market. So, yung next natin is the stocks. You can either earn through increase in price of stocks. Kung binili ko siya ng 20 pesos per share, for example, next thing you know, naging 40 pesos per share na siya, then I earn the 20% paper gain. 20 pesos paper gain or 100%. Pwedeng ganon. I can also expect some dividends coming from the companies. Kung nag-issue sila ng dividends, then I can take part of that. So, yeah. Companies shall sell shares of stock to raise money for a startup of growth. When you invest in stock, you're buying a share of ownership in the corporation, and then you're called a shareholder. So if I don't have time to put up my own business, I don't have time to really dig deeper and to check what are the things that I need to consider in forming a business, then I can just go ahead and buy some stocks and earn from the efforts of other people. So, di ba? How good is that? So, ang normal question sa akin is, yun nga, what is the best investment fund for me? And guys, it's not an easy cherry picking na, ito mag-stocks ka, ito mag-real estate ka, bumili ka na lang ng assets, o bumili ka na lang ng gold. It's not about that. The best investment for you is the one that, bakit may best? Is the one that can give you a specific return that will help you get into your goal at a certain risk that you can tolerate. So two things, the investment should be able to give you a specific return that will help you reach your goal within your risk tolerance rate. Why? Because every person has different risk tolerance. I have this billionaire client. One is 65-year-old. Marami siyang pera. He has $1 billion, but he cannot afford to take into any risk. And therefore, when the stock market goes down, we placed his investment into money markets, just earning 2 to 3% per year. And that's okay with him. Because the goal is just to sustain him while he is living. And how much is 2 to 3% of 200 million? Super big enough to cover his normal expenses. While I have this other billionaire client, nung bumaba yung stock market to 4,600, he opted to add additional investment. Why? Because he knows what the risks are and he is willing to take in that risk. So, nung nag-forsake yung stock market, nagdagdag siya ng investment even if he is already losing a lot of money because our initial investment is entered into at 8,000. So, nagdagdag siya nung nag-forsake and now the stock market is at 6,000. So, halos break-even na siya. So, he knows the goal and he can take in the risk. So, for you, what is your number? What is your goal? And determine the level of risk that you can take in. So, portfolio construction takes top-down approach. So, hindi ka pwede na cherry-picking ka ng fund, tapos papunta dun sa goal ko. So, our number one goal is, what is your goal? What is your time horizon? And then from there, we will find the perfect asset allocation for you before we select a specific fund that you would want to have in your portfolio. So it's like parang bumubuo ka ng puzzle. You don't start with the pieces of the puzzle. You start with the bigger picture, ano yung gusto mong mabuo, and then from there, I'm going to check on the pieces of the puzzle that would fit in to my puzzle. So portfolio construction takes into consideration what is your goal and what are the risks that you are willing to take in. So just to share with you some of the returns of some funds and how risk and returns coincides with each other. What are their relationships? Taken for example, the VUL bonds that Sun Life has, for a 1-year period of return, the worst case scenario is your bonds investment is going to earn negative 9.4%. Best case scenario is it can earn as much as 25.3%. On average, 1-year investment in bonds could give you 5%. If you're going to check as the time horizons move downward or move forward to 3 to 5 to 7 years, worst return is bumababa din siya. So like if you have 7 years, the worst case scenario is 1.6%. Sa 10 years, your worst case scenario is 35.3%. whereas the best case scenario is around 92 to 85%. So if your goal is like 10 years from now, so I might consider entering into a bond and have this 35% worst case scenario, but the best possible outcome of 85.4%. So if you take into consideration equities, kung wala kang time horizon, I wouldn't suggest that you go into stocks. Why? Worst case scenario is that you're going to lose half of your money on your first year. Best case scenario is you're going to double your money. If you're willing to take in that risk, double or cut by half, then so be it. Diba? But if you cannot take in that chances, then don't go for equities. But if you have 10 years on your plate, worst case scenario is that you're going to earn 32%. Best case scenarios you might get is 330%. On average, clients normally earns 169% of their investment or 10% return year on year. So whatever your risk appetite is and your goal is, there is a solution that you can take. These are the studies checking paano kung balansehin ko. Part of it is bonds, part of it is equity. And you will see dito from the pinaka-conservative na maliit lang yung allocation ng bonds to pinaka risky type na malaki yung investment in equity. And you can see the minimum return is in blue, the maximum return is in yellow. So what does that mean? If you are willing to take in more risk, there is a chances that you can have a higher return. But if you're willing to take in lower risk, there is a chance na mas mababa yung return. But you have to consider what type of risk you can take in. Hindi pwede na porket nakita mo highest possible return sa equity, equity can agad. Baka kasi hindi kaya ng financial portfolio mo. You know what, in BPI, if you open a mutual fund account there, they're going to have an assessment with you. If your value is less than 1 million, you cannot invest in stocks. So they consider you as not fit to invest in stocks because that is highly volatile market. So if your money is less than 1 million, you can only buy mutual funds that are bonds. You can only find unified investment trust funds that are bonds, that are debt instruments. So that's how they take that into consideration. So what are the different ways on how to be on stock market and in bond market? You can always do your DIY, do it your own. There are 10 best online business platforms that you can enter into. But mind you guys, I traded for myself. It's not an easy cup. It's not an easy task to do. You have to, because when I do my own trading, kumbaga ang nangyayari lang, kung sino yung maganda sa mata ko, yun yung bibilin ko. Because I don't have the time to really study on the company. Kung sino lang yung mga sikat, yun lang yung binibili ko. I don't know when to sell. I don't know when to buy. Hindi ko alam kung kailan yung perfect time. But if you wanted to do it on your own, go ahead. So as little as I think 1,000 pesos or 5,000 pesos, you can enter into these different platforms. But if I may suggest, if you have little amount, just go to mutual fund brokers. Why? Because kapag ka 1,000 or 5,000 pesos lang yung pera mo sa Call Financial, for example, isang stocks lang yung mabibili mo or dalawa. So, ang hirap mag-strategy pag wala kang kayang bilhin, kundi isa or dalawang stocks lang. If you are in a mutual fund, it's going to be a finance vehicle made up of full of money collected from different investors, and then a fund manager is going to invest it into the stock market or bond market or money market for you. Then the earnings you will divide with your co-investors. So VUL fund is also one popular investment plan. Thing is, it all already have an insurance with it. It has investment with it, but it is an insurance plan, although it has a saving investment. So to summarize our discussion, we have wealth protection, wealth accumulation, and then later on, once you advance in your financial journey, you can take into consideration wealth transfer journey or strategies or discussions. So these are pros and cons of the different financial assets that we discussed. Real estate, businesses, real estate collectibles, and the financial assets that we have, banks, bonds, UITF, stocks, and variable universal life. So you can take into consideration liquidity, rate of return, low risk, professional management, insurance protection, and SA tax advantage. So you can go ahead and take a screenshot and find whatever best suiting for you, whatever investment portfolio that you might want to have. So to summarize, we have either savings or investing. So you cannot move one step higher than where you are right now if you don't save. And then if you want to take it to the next level, then you have to invest and make your money grow. So your assignment is to analyze your current position, formulate goals and objectives, and establish what available financial instrument and how it can help for me to go from point A to point B. Where am I right now to where I want to be? So guys, please take a screenshot of the next slides that I'm going to give. Although I'll be sharing my entire slide to Pikpa and they'll have it shared to all of you. So everything that we discussed a while ago, you'll have a copy of it. But if you want to take a screenshot of the following slide, because this is going to be your take-home work. So yeah, number one, you have to analyze your current position, know what your current investment are, what is your personal net worth. Number two, formulate your goals. Number three, how are you going to fund it? What are the investment options that I'm going to put for each type of goals that I have? And then, yeah, what is my time horizon? So I have to break down my goals into my time horizon, because with that, I'll be able to check investment options that is suiting for those type of goals. So what is my risk appetite? And these are the normal tables that you can help guide you to what types of investment you can enter into. So determine amount of investment. This is your three allies. You have to have the time, you have to have the money, and you have to have the interest working on your end. So just to give you an example, if I have 1 million, how much will the value be after 20 years? If I have it in the bank, that's going to be 1,051,205. Time deposit, 1.2 million. Sunlight products or BUL fund, I think 2.2 million. So, but even if the Sunlight product gives you the highest return or the stocks gives you the highest possible return, again, go back to your risk appetite and go back to your goal. Which one is best suited? So to summarize, you have to summarize again. So marami tayong summary, pero meron pa akong end discussion after this. So you have to have your goals written. You have to begin with a habit, prepare your emergency funds, get insured, make money earn for you, seek professional advice, and then stay off the course. So to end my discussion today, I'm going to summarize it or to end this with the rich habits. What are the normal habits of those rich? So question is, aside from money, ano kaya yung meron in common sa mga wealthy individuals? And a company called Rich Habits researched this over 5 years and made a study, interviewed 233 wealthy individuals. Each of them answered 144 questions. And then they summarized it. So Tom has shared his findings with 50 million people in 25 countries. One of the things he learned was how they actually created their wealth. And he found three predominant paths the wealthy people pursue. So number one is si virtuoso. So normally, most of us are actually in this. O hindi siya. Yeah, si savers, investors muna. Ang sample natin dyan si Warren Buffett. So, 22% daw ng wealthy are made up of saver investor. So, characteristic is they all had zero debt. Wala silang utang. They have passive income generated by their savings. The passive income from their savings help to meet or exceed their standard of living. Essentially, they spent less than what they earn. Pero this guys, ito yung 5 things in common, low standard of living, it's relative to the income of the person. So, syempre, Warren Buffett yung sample natin dyan. Yung low standard of living niya, baka sa atin, sobra-sobra na. So, if you are like earning 100,000 a month, low standard of living may mean 50% of that, and that's 50,000. If you are earning 20,000 per month, and then 10,000 for you is what you call low standard of living. So, it is relative to your income. So, sabi nila, saver investor has low standard of living. A typically modest income, an income that exceeds their lower standard of living, and a long-term savings plan of 20% of or more of their modest income. They have consistent and prudent saving behavior over many years. And that's savers investors. And us as workers or as employees mostly will fall under this. So if you want to be rich, to reach your financial goal, to be comfortable, secured, and worryless, you have to be a savers investor. Or you can be a virtuoso. Approximately 27% of the rich people in the studies are virtuosos. They were among the best at what they did in their career. Ang sample dito is si Jack Welch. For those who are in the 40s or maybe 30s or 50s here, may know Jack Welch. Siya yung kumbaga parang manager or head ng General Electric. And on the 80s and in the 90s, General Electric is a rock star in financial management, in business management. And Jack Welch made his fortune in General Electric. So who are the example of this? These are normally your managers, your CFO. So they intend to work on large corporation and work there for a long period of time. Normally, they start from the bottom to up and work their way to the top. So, kumbaga, yumaman sila dahil magaling sila dun sa ginagawa nila. This could be you. Or finally, you could be the dreamer. So, 51% of the total group interviewed falls under the dreamer. They pursued a big dream and were able to turn it into a reality, which eventually provided them with an enormous income, profit, or growth. They accumulated an average of $7.4 million. So, which one is you? How do you plan to get there? It's up to you. You could either be the saver investor, you could be the virtuosos, or you can be the dreamer. So, whatever it is, it's going to be up to you. So, our final key takeaway, there is more than one way to build a fortune. And that across all levels of wealth, the most common denominator was time. It took many years to accumulate their wealth and patience and commitment. So, yeah, you have to have time on your side. And to end this, I'm going to take this quote for you because most of them would tell you, hindi, di ba, masama ang maging mayaman. Masama yung pinag-uusapan yung pera. Well, I beg to disagree. Being wealthy is about being responsible and productive, taking stewardship, giving to others, serving society, and creating a legacy. Wealth is a tool to help people across generations live productive and fulfilling lives. To be good citizens and teaching one's children to do the same, it is about putting values squarely at the center of things. Without value, you don't have wealth, just money. So with that, I end my presentation. I hope you were able to learn something for today and go find that number and go get that goal. Thank you.